My fiancé said, "Your salary is our money, but my salary is my money. That's how modern relationships work." I said, "You're so right." Filed taxes separately. Closed the joint account. She found out how modern feels when rent was due. I was doing the dishes when it started. Something as simple as me asking if she'd transferred her half of the rent yet. We'd been living together for 18 months, engaged for 6 of those, and splitting everything straight down the middle since day one. Or at least, that's what I thought we'd been doing. The apartment was quiet except for the sound of running water and the occasional clink of plates. I'd gotten home from work around 6:30, found her already there scrolling through her phone on the couch. Normal evening, normal routine. I'd started dinner while she decompressed from her day. We'd eaten, had a decent conversation about nothing important. Then I'd volunteered to clean up while she relaxed. Standard stuff for us. That's when I asked about the rent. Simple question, no accusation behind it, just a practical reminder about a bill that was coming due. We'd been doing this dance for 18 months without issue. First of the month rolled around. We'd both transfer our portions to the landlord. Clean, simple, fair. She looked up from her phone with this expression, like I'd just asked her to donate a kidney. "What do you mean my half?" Her tone was sharp, defensive before I'd even finished my question. "The rent," I repeated, turning off the water. "It's due in 3 days. You usually transfer your half by now." She set her phone down on the counter with more force than necessary. "I shouldn't have to transfer anything. You make more money than I do. You should be covering it." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I genuinely thought she was joking. We'd had this system for a year and a half. She made good money at her job. We split everything evenly because that seemed fair to both of us. Except she wasn't joking. Her face was dead serious. The look in her eyes told me she'd been thinking about this for a while. Like she'd been waiting for the right moment to drop this bomb and had finally decided tonight was the night. Except she wasn't joking. Her face was dead serious. The look in her eyes told me she'd been thinking about this for a while. Like she'd been waiting for the right moment to drop this bomb and had finally decided tonight was the night. I put down the dish towel and turned to face her completely. "We agreed to split everything?" I said slowly. That was the arrangement from the beginning. Both of us contributing equally. I watched her shift on the couch. Her whole posture changed. Defensive. Like she was gearing up for a fight she'd already planned out in her head. That was before we got engaged. She crossed her arms. "Things are different now. We're building a life together. Your money should be for us. For our future." The words came out smooth. Practiced. Like she'd been rehearsing this speech. "Okay," I said. "Our money. So your salary goes toward that too, right? We pool everything together and budget from there." "No." She said it so matter-of-fact that I almost didn't process what she just said. "No? My salary is my money." She explained like she was teaching a child basic math. "I need financial independence. I need to know I have my own security. But your salary is our money. That's how modern relationships work." I stood there for a solid 10 seconds just staring at her, trying to figure out if she'd hit her head recently, or if I'd somehow missed something fundamental about who she was as a person. Modern relationships. The phrase hung in the air between us like some kind of justified shield she was hiding behind. "That doesn't make any sense," I finally said. "How is that fair?" She rolled her eyes. Actually rolled her eyes at me like I was the one being unreasonable. "It's not about being fair in some mathematical way. It's about you stepping up and being a provider. I'm the woman. I need security. You make more money, so you should be handling the major expenses." The way she said it. So casual, so entitled. Like this was common knowledge I'd somehow missed. "I make 15% more than you," I pointed out. 15%. Not double, not triple. You earn good money at your job. I knew her salary. We'd talked about it when we moved in together. $78,000 a year in pharmaceutical sales. That's not struggling money. That's comfortable living money. And I need to save it, she shot back. For emergencies. For my future. What if something happens? What if we break up? Then I need to know I have something to fall back on. The irony of her planning for our breakup while simultaneously demanding I finance our life together wasn't lost on me. She was literally telling me she didn't trust our relationship to last while insisting I invest everything into it. "So let me get this straight," I said, keeping my voice level. "You want me to pay for rent, utilities, groceries, all the shared expenses, while you keep your entire salary for yourself?" "Not all of it," she huffed. "I'll still pay for my personal stuff, my car, my student loans, my clothes." The way she said it, like she deserved applause for handling her own individual expenses. "So generous," I said. She didn't catch the sarcasm. "Exactly. I'm not asking you to pay for my personal expenses. Just the household ones. You know, the ones we both benefit from. We both benefit from." The statement was so ridiculous I had to turn away. I turned back to the dishes, not because I wanted to finish them, but because I needed a second to think without looking at her face. This was a side of her I hadn't seen before. Or maybe I had and just ignored the signs. We talked about this when we moved in together, I said without turning around. Equal partners, equal contributions. That's what you agreed to. I didn't know what being engaged would feel like, she said. I didn't know I'd need this security. Now I do. And if you really loved me, you'd want to provide that. There it was. The love card. The if you really loved me manipulation that people pull when they know their argument has no logical foundation. I finished the last dish, dried my hands, and turned around. I'm going to think about this, I said. We'll talk later. She smiled like she'd already won. Like this conversation had gone exactly how she'd planned it. Take your time, but rent's due Friday. The casual reminder. The assumption that I'd cave. That thinking about it just meant accepting her terms with a smile. I went for a drive. Not because I needed to cool off, but because I needed space to think clearly. She just fundamentally changed the terms of our relationship without discussion or negotiation. Just a declaration that this was how things would be now. Like I didn't get a vote. Like my opinion on how we structured our financial life together was irrelevant. I drove without destination. Just moved through the streets of our neighborhood while my brain processed what had just happened. The streetlights were coming on. People were getting home from work. Normal people living normal lives with normal relationships. Or maybe not. Maybe everyone was dealing with some version of this, and I just hadn't known. The thing that bothered me most wasn't the money itself. I could afford to pay more. That wasn't the point. The point was the fundamental unfairness of it. The entitlement. The assumption that because I made slightly more money, I should be responsible for funding our shared life, while she hoarded her income for some theoretical future emergency. I'd been raised to believe relationships were partnerships. My parents split everything. My dad made more than my mom for most of their marriage. They never once operated on the principle that his money was theirs, but her money was hers. Everything went into a joint account. They budgeted together, made decisions together. That's what I thought partnership looked like. My sister and her husband had a joint account they both contributed to equally. Percentage based on income, sure. But the principle was the same. Shared life meant shared responsibility. Both people contributing what they could to build something together. Not one person extracting value while the other funded everything. Every healthy relationship I'd seen operated on mutual respect and shared responsibility. This wasn't that. This was her deciding she deserved to keep her money while I funded our life. Because that's what modern relationships apparently meant to her. Some twisted version of partnership where only one person actually partnered. The thing is, I make decent money. I'm an electrical engineer. Pull in around $90,000 a year. Good salary. Stable job. Benefits. The whole package. She works in pharmaceutical sales. Makes close to 78. We weren't struggling. We weren't living paycheck to paycheck. We weren't choosing between bills and food. We had separate accounts and had been splitting expenses without issue for 18 months. Until now. Until she decided engaged meant something different than what we'd both agreed to. I pulled into a parking lot. Some shopping center that was closing down for the night. Sat there with the engine running and really thought about what she'd said. Not just the words, but the implication behind them. She wanted financial independence for herself, but expected me to give mine up. She wanted security for her future, but didn't care if I had security for mine. She wanted to build a life together, but only if I was the one paying for the construction. I drove past our gym, the one we both went to. The membership I paid for because she'd asked me to cover it when we first moved in together. Temporary, she'd said, just until her commission check came through. That was 14 months ago. I'd been paying $140 a month since then. Never asked her about it because it seemed petty to nickel and dime over a gym membership. We were partners. What's a gym membership between partners? But sitting there in that parking lot, I started doing math. 14 months at $140. That's $1,960. Almost $2,000 I'd spent on something we'd agreed she'd pay me back for. Except she never did. And I never pushed because what kind of person tracks gym membership reimbursements like some kind of accountant? Now I was seeing it differently. That wasn't the only thing either. Our streaming services were all on my credit card. 6 different subscriptions. Some I used, some she used, some we both used. But all on my card because it was easier that way. She'd suggested it, said it would be simpler to have one person handling all the streaming stuff. She'd pay me back for her share. Except she never did. I pulled out my phone. Started going through my credit card statements right there in the parking lot. The streaming services added up to $78 a month. Not a fortune, but 12 months of that. 14 months actually, since we moved in together. That's $1,092. Another $1,000 I'd been covering without even thinking about it. Our internet bill was in my name. $110 a month. She'd asked to be on my plan because her credit wasn't great at the time. Temporary again. She'd split it with me. Except she'd paid me for it the first 3 months and then just stopped. I'd never brought it up because it felt petty. But that was 11 months at $110. $1,210. Renter's insurance, $55 a month. My policy, but covered both of us. She was supposed to pay half. Never did after the first month. 13 months at $27.50 per month. $357. Small amount, but it added up. Then there were the groceries. The random grocery runs I'd make without asking her to Venmo me, because we were together. Because keeping track of every grocery trip felt ridiculous. But how many times had I stopped at the store on my way home? Picked up milk, eggs, bread, vegetables, meat. Stuff for both of us. Once or twice a week probably. Call it $40 each time. Twice a week for 18 months. That's somewhere around $6,000. I sat there staring at my phone, at the numbers that were adding up to something I hadn't wanted to see. Between the gym, the streaming services, the internet, the renter's insurance, and the random groceries I picked up without asking for reimbursement, I was covering an extra $450 a month. Minimum. Probably more if I really dug into every purchase. That's $5,400 a year. Money I'd been spending on our shared life while she kept her salary untouched. Money I'd spent without complaint because I thought we were building something together. Because I thought partnership meant not sweating the small stuff. Except it wasn't small. It was $5,000. And it wasn't partnership. It was me funding our life while she saved hers. And now she wanted to make that arrangement official. Permanent. Not just the expenses I'd already been covering without realizing it, but all of them. Everything. Rent was $2,000 a month. Our portion of utilities averaged around $180. She was asking me to take on another $2,000 a month minimum. Add that to the $450 I was already covering. $24,000 a year on top of the $5,000 I'd been spending without even knowing it. $29,000 a year. That's what she wanted me to contribute to our shared life while she kept her entire $78,000 salary for herself. I'd be paying 32% of my income toward our life. She'd be paying 0%. Modern relationships, right. That's when I stopped feeling confused and started feeling played. Not angry, not hurt, just clear. Like someone had turned on a light in a dark room, and I could finally see what had been there all along. She'd been slowly increasing the financial burden I carried while decreasing her own, testing how much I'd accept, how much I'd cover without complaint, how far she could push before I pushed back, and I'd let her. Because I didn't want to be the guy who nickel and dimed his girlfriend. Because I thought being generous meant not tracking expenses. Because I believed we were building something together, and what did a few $100s here or there matter in the grand scheme of things? Except it did matter. Because it revealed something fundamental about how she viewed me. Not as a partner, as a resource. Someone whose value was tied to what I could provide, what I could cover, what I could pay for while she kept her money safe and untouched for some future that apparently didn't include me in any meaningful financial sense. I went home 3 hours later. She was on the couch watching something on the TV. The TV I'd bought when we moved in together because hers was tiny and mine had broken. Another thing I'd contributed without tracking or asking for reimbursement. She looked up when I walked in. "Did you think about it?" "I did," I said. "And you're right." She sat up straighter, a smile spreading across her face. "Really?" "Absolutely," I nodded. Modern relationships are about adapting to new realities. About each person maintaining their independence while building something together. "I'm glad you understand," she said. "I knew you'd come around once you really thought about it." "Oh, I thought about it." I sat down in the chair across from her. "And I realized you're completely right. Your money should be your money. For your security, your future, your independence." "Exactly." She was beaming now. "And my money should be my money," I continued. "For my security, my future, my independence." Her smile faltered. "What? If modern relationships are about financial independence, then we should both have it," I explained. "I'll cover my half of the rent. You cover yours, I'll pay for my groceries. You pay for yours. We split utilities straight down the middle." "That's not what I meant." Her voice had an edge now. "I know what you meant," I said calmly. "You meant you wanted financial independence while I funded our life. But that's not how independence works. That's just you taking advantage of someone who cares about you." "I'm not taking advantage," she protested. "You make more money. It makes sense for you to contribute more." "By that logic," I replied, You should do more of the housework since you get home an hour before me every day. But I don't ask that because I believe in equal partnership. That's different, she snapped. No, I said. It's the same principle. You want an arrangement that benefits you while giving nothing additional in return. I want a partnership where we both contribute fairly. She stared at me like I'd suddenly started speaking a foreign language. You're being ridiculous, she finally said. This is how relationships work now. Women need security. Men provide. That's the dynamic. Then find a man who wants that dynamic. I stood up. Because I'm not him. I'm someone who believes in mutual respect and equal effort. If you can't do that, then maybe we need to reconsider this engagement. You'd break up with me over money? Her voice was rising. Over you asking me to be your personal bank account? Yeah, I would. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I was upset, but because I was planning. I'd learned a long time ago that people don't change their fundamental nature. They just reveal it gradually. She'd revealed that she saw me as a resource, a provider, someone whose value was tied to what I could give her financially. That wasn't a partner. That was a dependent. And I hadn't signed up to be anyone's father figure. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. Made coffee, kissed me on the cheek, asked if I wanted to get dinner somewhere Friday night, like we hadn't just had a fight that exposed something fundamental about how she viewed our relationship. I need to take care of some things at the bank, I said over breakfast. Just some account stuff, boring financial things. She barely looked up from her phone. Okay, have fun with that. I went to the bank on my lunch break, asked to speak with someone about separating some accounts. The banker was a woman in her 40s who'd probably seen every relationship dispute there was. I explained the situation, not emotionally, just factually. We have a joint savings account. We opened it talking about saving for a wedding. I want to remove myself from that account and open my own. She didn't ask questions, didn't judge, just pulled up the account and started the paperwork. The joint savings account had $12,000 in it. I'd put in $7,500. She'd put in $4,500. I had the deposit records to prove it. I withdrew my $7,500, put it in a new individual account, left her with her $4,500. I also opened a new checking account, transferred my direct deposit to go there instead of the old account she had access to. The banker looked at me when we finished. Good luck, she said quietly. I had a feeling I'd need it. Friday came faster than I expected. I'd spent the week being pleasant but distant, going to work, coming home, making my own meals. The dynamic in the apartment had shifted completely. We were living like roommates who didn't particularly like each other. Polite, civil, but cold. Monday evening, I'd made myself dinner, chicken and vegetables. Simple. She walked in from work and saw me cooking, smelled the food. I could see her wanting to ask if I'd made enough for both of us, the way I always used to, but she didn't ask, and I didn't offer. I ate my dinner, she ordered takeout. We watched different shows in different rooms. Tuesday was worse. She tried to initiate conversation, asked about my day. I gave short answers, not rude, just factual. Work was fine, projects moving along. That's good, she'd said. Yeah, I'd replied. Then silence. She kept looking at me like she was waiting for something, some sign that I was going to crack, that this was all just me being stubborn and eventually I'd go back to normal. Wednesday, she got frustrated. We need to talk about this, she'd said. About what? About us. About what's happening. What's happening is we're both maintaining our financial independence. Isn't that what you wanted? You know that's not what I meant. Then you should have been clearer about what you meant, I'd said. Because what you said was, your money is yours and my money is ours. I'm just correcting that to my money is mine and your money is yours. Equal, fair, modern. Thursday morning, she'd tried a different approach. Made me coffee, the way I liked it. Set it next to my laptop while I was working. I thanked her, drank it, kept working. She hovered, waiting for that gesture to mean something more than it did. When I didn't engage further, she'd sighed loudly and left the room. She noticed everything during that week. Every meal I made for myself. Every time I did my laundry separately from hers. Every streaming service I changed the password on. Every small way I was establishing boundaries that hadn't existed before. And she didn't say anything. Just kept acting like everything was fine. Like her demand that I fund our life while she hoarded her salary was completely reasonable. And I'd come around eventually. Thursday night, she asked about rent again. It's due tomorrow, she reminded me. Her voice had an edge to it. Nervous. Like she was starting to realize I wasn't bluffing. Are you going to transfer it? I already paid my half, I said. Sent it directly to the landlord yesterday. Wait, she looked confused. Your half? I told you, I said. I'm paying my portion. You pay yours. That was a week ago, she said slowly. I thought we moved past that. You thought wrong. I kept my tone neutral. You mean you thought I'd just roll over and do what you wanted? I corrected. No, I meant what I said. We're both financially independent now, just like you wanted. She started to panic. I could see it in her eyes. That's not what I wanted, and you know it. Sure it is, I said. You wanted your money to be yours. Now it is. And my money is mine. Congratulations. We're both independent. You can't do this, she said. I don't have enough to cover my half of rent this month, I thought. I thought you did. I was genuinely curious now. You make $78,000 a year. Rent is $12,000 annually. Where's your money? She didn't answer right away. I watched her face go through several emotions. Anger, fear, calculation, finally landing on something like desperation. I have expenses, she said. Car payment, student loans, savings. Right. I nodded. Your independent expenses. The ones you specifically said you'd keep paying yourself, but you said you'd cover rent. No, I said. You demanded I cover rent. I disagreed. We never resolved that disagreement. You just assumed I'd fold. What am I supposed to do? She asked. The rent is due tomorrow. Figure it out, I suggested. Use your savings. The savings you've been building while I covered extra expenses for the past 18 months. She stared at me. I watched her realize that I knew. About the gym membership, the streaming services, the groceries I'd been buying without asking for reimbursement, the slow accumulation of expenses she'd let me absorb while protecting her own money. You've been keeping track, she said quietly. No, I said. I've been being a partner. There's a difference. You've just been taking advantage of someone who didn't want to seem petty. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I don't have the money right now, she finally admitted. My savings is tied up. I made some investments. My car needed repairs last month. I had to buy new work clothes. None of my problem, I said. You wanted financial independence. This is what it looks like. Can you spot me this month? She asked. I'll pay you back. No. Why not? Because you won't, I said simply. You haven't paid me back for anything else. Why would this be different? That was different, she protested. We were together. We are together, I reminded her. We're engaged, remember? But apparently being engaged means I fund your life while you build your savings. That's not the partnership I signed up for. She spent Friday scrambling, called her parents, but they said no. I heard her on the phone explaining that her fiancé was being unreasonable about money. Funny how she told them I was being unreasonable, but not that she demanded I pay all our shared expenses while keeping her salary untouched. She tried to get a short-term loan from her bank. Denied. Tried to borrow from friends. They all suddenly had their own financial problems. By Friday evening, we were officially late on rent. Not catastrophically late. Most landlords give you a few days grace period, but late enough that she was genuinely panicking. Saturday morning, she tried a different approach. Sat down next to me on the couch. Put her hand on my arm. All soft and sweet. Baby, she said. I know I messed up how I approached this. I was wrong to demand you pay everything. Can we talk about this? Sure, I said. I was working on my laptop. Didn't stop typing. I've been thinking, she continued. Maybe we could do a percentage-based split. You make more, so you pay a slightly higher percentage. That's fair, right? That's reasonable. I kept typing. Not interested. What? Why not? Because 2 weeks ago, you demanded I pay everything, I said. Now you're offering to pay 30%. Next month, when you're short again, it'll be 20%. The month after that, you'll have another reason why I should cover more. You don't trust me, she said. Got it in one. She pulled her hand back. Stood up. This is ridiculous. We're supposed to be partners. We are. I finally looked at her. Equal partners. Contributing equally. Like we agreed to from the beginning. I can't afford that right now, she said. Not my problem. Stop saying that, she snapped. Yes, it is your problem. We live together. We're engaged. What affects me affects you. No, I said. What affects you is your responsibility. What affects me is mine. That's what you wanted. Monday came. Rent was officially late. Our landlord sent a text asking what was going on. I responded that there was some confusion with my roommate's portion, but I'd paid mine, and we'd have it sorted by Wednesday. Roommate? She said when she saw the text. You called me your roommate? We're not married yet, I said. And at this rate, we won't be. So yeah, roommate works. Tuesday, she told me she'd figured it out. Borrowed money from her brother. She'd pay him back over the next few months, but at least rent would be covered. Great, I said. Make sure you pay him back this time. What's that supposed to mean? Just that you have a habit of not paying back money you borrow. I shut my laptop. Ask me how I know. You're never going to let this go, are you? She asked. Let what go? The fact that you tried to manipulate me into being your personal piggy bank? Probably not. She paid her half of rent that day, sent it directly to the landlord, made sure I saw her do it, like she deserved credit for doing the bare minimum she'd agreed to do 18 months ago. Wednesday, she started asking about other bills. The internet bill is due next week, she said. Are we splitting that? Yes, I said. And the insurance, and the gym membership, and the streaming services, and groceries. Everything gets split straight down the middle from now on. You're being petty, she accused. I'm being fair, I corrected. There's a difference. Over the next week, she tried everything. Tears, anger, bargaining, silent treatment. That strange, nice phase where she cooked dinner and acted like everything was fine. None of it worked because I'd already made my decision. She'd shown me who she was. Someone who viewed relationships as transactional, but only when the transaction benefited her. I wasn't interested in that. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. We were splitting groceries. Actually splitting them. I bought my food. She bought hers. We had separate shelves in the fridge. Separate cabinets. It was incredibly petty and absolutely necessary, because she'd proven I couldn't trust her to contribute fairly. She came home from work and saw me making dinner, using my groceries, my pan, my ingredients. Can I have some? She asked. No, I said. Why not? Because it's my food. I bought it. You want dinner? Make your own. We used to share meals, she said quietly. We used to share a lot of things, I replied. Until you decided sharing meant you keeping everything while I provided everything. Now we don't share. This is miserable, she said. Living like this. Like roommates who hate each other. It's exhausting. Then change it, I suggested. Contribute fairly. Act like a partner. Stop viewing me as a resource to extract value from. I'm not doing that, she protested. You literally are. I turned off the stove. You wanted your money to be yours, while my money funded our life. That's extraction. That's not partnership. I thought you'd want to take care of me, she said. I do want to take care of you, I said. As an equal partner. Not as your personal ATM. There's a difference. What happened to us? She asked. You happened to us, I said. You revealed that you value financial security over partnership. That you see me as a provider rather than an equal. And I decided I'm not interested in being that for anyone. She left the kitchen. I heard her on the phone later that night, talking to her friend about what a jerk I was being, how I'd changed, how I used to be generous, and now I was nickel and dimming her over everything. I hadn't changed. I just stopped being a doormat. There's a difference. The next morning, she told me she was going to stay with a friend for a few days. Get some space. Think about things. Okay, I said. She seemed surprised I wasn't fighting to keep her there. You don't care if I leave? I care if you come back and nothing's changed, I said. If you need space to figure out whether you can actually be an equal partner, take all the space you need. She left that afternoon, packed a bag, took her car, didn't say goodbye. I spent the evening cleaning the apartment, meal prepping for the week, going to the gym, living my life exactly as I would have if she'd never tried to fundamentally alter our relationship dynamic. 3 days later, she texted, "Can we talk?" "Sure," I replied. "When?" "Tonight," she wrote. "Dinner at that Italian place we like?" "I'll cook here," I responded. No need to spend money on a restaurant. She showed up at 7, looked tired, sat down at my small dining table, started talking before I'd even gotten the food plated. "I've been thinking," she said, "about us, about what you said. And I need to know something first." She looked at me directly. "Is this really about the money or is this about something else?" "It's about respect," I said, "and partnership, and you viewing me as a resource rather than an equal. Money's just how that manifested. I never meant to make you feel that way," she said quietly. "But you did." I set her plate down. And then when I pointed it out instead of apologizing or reflecting, you doubled down. Told me that's how modern relationships work. Tried to manipulate me into funding your life. That's not someone who respects me. I was scared, she said. Scared? Of what? Of not having security. She admitted. My parents got divorced when I was 12. My mom had nothing. She'd been a stay-at-home parent. No savings, no career. She struggled for years. I watched her barely survive. I promised myself I'd never be in that position. Okay, I said. That's valid. But making yourself secure by making me insecure isn't a solution. That's just transferring your fear onto me. I know, she said. I know that now. I spent 3 days at my friend's place watching her and her husband. They split everything. Both work, both contribute, both have their own accounts and a shared account. It works because they both trust each other. And I realized I don't trust you, she said. Not really. Not with my financial security. Because if things go bad, I need to know I'll be okay. So you were planning our breakup while demanding I invest in our relationship, I said. Yeah, she nodded. I was. That's messed up. It really is. We sat in silence for a minute. I ate. She pushed food around on her plate. Can I ask you something? She finally said. Why did you pay my half of rent for so long when we first started dating? Because you asked me to, I said. You said you were between commission checks. I believed you. I was lying, she admitted. I had the money. I just wanted to see if you'd do it. Test your generosity or something. My friend told me to do it. She said good partners want to provide. I took a breath. Let it out slowly. Get out. What? Get out of my apartment, I said calmly. We're done. Wait. She stood up. I'm being honest. I'm telling you the truth. You've been manipulating me from the start, I said. Testing me, using me, taking advantage of my trust, and now you're admitting it like that makes it better. This entire relationship has been you extracting value while contributing as little as possible. That's not true, she protested. You just admitted you lied about needing money early on, I said. You've been covering an extra $5,000 a year without asking for reimbursement. You demanded I fund our life while you saved your salary. You borrowed money from your brother to pay rent rather than use your own savings. Every single decision you've made has been about protecting yourself while using me. But I love you, she said. You love what I provide, I corrected, not who I am. There's a difference. Now get out. She tried to argue, tried to explain, tried to say she'd change. I walked to the door, opened it, stood there waiting. She finally grabbed her bag, walked to the door, stopped in front of me. You're making a mistake, she said. No, I said. I'm correcting one. She left. I closed the door, locked it, went back to my dinner. It was cold, but I didn't care. I finished eating, did the dishes, went to bed early, slept better than I had in weeks. The next day she called, texted, called again. I didn't answer. She emailed, sent messages through friends, showed up at my apartment twice. I didn't engage. 3 days later, she sent a long message, apologizing, explaining, promising to change, begging for another chance. I read it, deleted it, moved on. 2 weeks later, I got a text from her brother, asking if I wanted to get lunch, just to talk. I figured he'd been sent as an ambassador. Turned out I was wrong. We met at a sandwich place near my work. He got straight to it. I know what she did. He said, she told me everything. Tried to make you sound like the bad guy, but I know my sister. I know how she operates. I'm not getting involved, I said. That's between you two. I'm not asking you to, he said. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. She learned that behavior from our parents. Doesn't make it okay, but explains it. I appreciate that, I said. But it doesn't change anything. I know. He nodded. For what it's worth, you seem like a decent guy. She messed up a good thing. We finished lunch. He paid. Said if I ever needed anything to reach out. I thanked him. Never saw him again. A month later, I saw on social media that she was dating someone new. Some guy who worked in finance. Probably made good money. Perfect for what she was looking for. I felt nothing. No jealousy, no regret. Just relief that I'd seen who she really was before we'd gotten married. 6 months after that, I started dating someone else. Met her at a work conference. She was an architect, made decent money, had her own place, her own life. We went out a few times. On the 4th date, we talked about moving in together eventually, how we'd handle finances. She said she believed in splitting everything equally, contributing to a joint account for shared expenses while keeping separate accounts for personal spending. Transparent, fair, equal. Sounds perfect, I said, and I meant it. We've been together for a year now, living together for 8 months. We have a shared spreadsheet where we track all expenses. The last I heard about her that she moved in with the finance guy. Saw it on social media. Big place. Nice car in the driveway. Caption about being blessed and grateful. I wondered if he knew what he'd signed up for. If she'd told him her money was hers and his money was theirs. If he'd agreed because he wanted to provide, or if he just hadn't figured out the game yet. Not my problem anymore. I'd learned my lesson. Some people see relationships as partnerships. Others see them as opportunities for extraction. The key is figuring out which one you're dealing with before you waste years of your life funding someone else's independence while sacrificing your own. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.